For our top story this hour, we begin in Yemen, where 6 top military officials are dead after a drone attack on a government base. The attack happened while high-ranking intelligence officials were watching a military parade at the Al Anad air base in Aden. Houthi rebels are said to be responsible. A Yemen TV station captured the attack as the parade got underway. The Houthis claim they were targeting personnel from the Saudi-led coalition backing the government. The attack comes after both sides in the conflict last month agreed to a ceasefire around the key port city of Houthi. Yemen's information minister said the attack proves the Houthis are not ready for peace. And the Houthi drone strike comes as the Pentagon is denying allegations U.S. personnel were witnesses or complicit to torture that happened inside secret Yemeni prisons overseen by the UAE. The UN and a number of human rights agencies are calling foul after the Associated Press covered shocking details of abuse. RT's Caleb Maupin has the details.
Initially, prisoners were held in shipping containers, which were smeared with excrement. Each container held up to 50 men, who were blindfolded, shackled, and sometimes forced to relieve themselves in corners after guards shut the door for the day.
We could hear the screams. The entire place is gripped by fear. Almost everyone is sick. The rest are near death. Anyone who complains heads directly to the torture chamber.
Reports highlighting torture and scandalous practices. The Associated Press and human rights groups say that prisons in Yemen, operated by the United Arab Emirates, a longtime U.S. ally, have been run in total degradation, and that U.S. military personnel may have been involved with or even witnessed the torture. But the United States Department of Defense has fired back with its own report saying, nope, we found nothing.
The Department of Defense has not developed any independent, credible information indicating that U.S. allies or partners have abused detainees in Yemen.
Now, the key word is independent. They basically just ignored reports that painted horrific pictures of the facilities. On top of the human rights group, we've also gotten acknowledgement of the problem from the United Nations.
Investigations by the group of experts confirm widespread arbitrary detention throughout the country and ill treatment and torture in some facilities. In most cases, detainees were not informed of the reasons for their arrest, were not charged, and were denied access to lawyers or a judge.
There is some kind of medical experimentation going on in these detention centers, which is connected with psychological domination, torture of people, to see how far they can go. Both the US and Britain and other international community members have openly admitted that they are providing intelligence and logistics to the Saudi-led coalitions. Basically, military advice. I believe they're turning a blind eye to it because they may well be the ones who are advising the carrying out or the doing of things in this particular way.
Now, the United Arab Emirates says that these prisons are operated by Yemenis. They've got nothing to do with it. And the Department of Defense is echoing their statement that it's all a big facade. They found nothing. However, if you look at congressional reports, they indicate that U.S. personnel have been involved in interrogations.
U.S. forces do not conduct detention operations in Yemen. Rather, U.S. forces conduct intelligence interrogations of detainees held in partner custody.
But the Department of Defense is sticking to its story, saying, we know nothing. And I guess the world just has to decide who it wants to believe. Caleb Maupin, RT, New York.
All right, for more on everything coming out of Yemen today, we're being joined now by geopolitical strategist John Sitiledes. John, good of you to be with us today. So no question about it, the Houthis immediately claimed this drone attack on Yemen's official government military parade at the Al Anad air base in Aden, where American special forces once led their fight against Yemen's al-Qaeda branch there. Mm-hmm. Many are questioning where the Houthis acquired this drone. Insiders are saying that it came from Tehran. Your thoughts?
It might be too early to definitively ascertain the origin of the drone, but we know that the Houthis are fully armed and funded by the Iranian government. with specific purposes to undermine the Saudi and UAE-backed government in Sana'a, the capital of Yemen. At the same time, you've got these Iranian-backed rebels attacking the Saudi and UAE-backed government. You've got another multi-dimensional battle taking place between al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula and Islamic State, which has also now taken root in Yemen. So it's a horrific scene every which way. But the question right now is, why would the Iranian-backed Houthis undertake this type of a drone attack, a shrapnel attack, on the military officers there the day after the UN envoy was at the Security Council talking about the ceasefire and looking to see how we move peace efforts in Yemen forward?
It's certainly not going to help the peace efforts there. And that strike happened during what was supposed to be, as you said, the ceasefire, so that all sides in this Yemeni fight can get aid through the ports and, most importantly, to the people who are on the brink of famine. I think a lot of people understand that now. What does a move like this do in hampering the ability of, say, the UN to get much needed aid inside those borders if attacks like this are happening during a ceasefire?
I would expect there's still going to be a major effort to get humanitarian aid to the suffering people of Yemen. Right now we have maybe the world's next great humanitarian crisis. Up to 25 million people without the ability to obtain food in the weeks and months ahead. But at the same time, it'd be difficult to imagine there's not going to be some type of a retaliatory response from Saudi Arabia or the United Arab Emirates, whose officers and whose personnel were at that parade. And they can't, I think for the sake more of Gulf politics, if not anything else, allow an Iranian-backed attack against their personnel to take place unscathed.
But now, speaking of Saudi Arabia and the UAE, the war in Yemen has finally come to light within the mainstream media due to the death of the Washington Post journalist Jamal Khashoggi. His death highlighted Saudi Arabia's role in the region, especially within Yemen, for this humanitarian crisis that we're witnessing. Some might argue that Saudi's backing and interference is why the situation is as dire as it is. It's been sort of an unbalanced fight, if you will, with the backing of Saudi Arabia. How might the U.S. sway Saudi's action in that region and sway the UAE?
I'm not sure that's the U.S. intention, Manila. This war began in 2014 when the Iranian-backed Houthi rebels attacked and overtook the government capital in Sana'a. The Saudi government and then the UAE came in full force in 2015, and it's been a horrific war, as are almost all wars, of course, for the last 3, now going on 4 years. But I think the U.S. sees an opportunity here to prevent Iranians' larger regional hegemony strategy from taking root. They already have a strong foothold in Syria and Lebanon, in Gaza, and obviously in Iraq. They're trying to undermine the government in Bahrain, and they've been looking to undermine the government in Yemen for the last 3 to 4 years. I don't think you'll see much of a change in battle strategy. I think we'll be continuing to support Saudi Arabia and UAE, but with much more of a concern for the humanitarian impacts of the kinds of attacks we've seen against Yemeni civilians, including one that killed many innocent people just a few weeks ago. And
is this a proxy war between Saudi and Iran?
It absolutely is.
Wow, just flat out. I think a lot of people would agree with you on that. And what's the solution here, John? Might Yemen end in a possible two-state solution where it's the Shiites on one side? I mean, how do you see this playing out?
I don't know if there would be a quote-unquote Shia component to some type of a diplomatic resolution in Yemen. You don't really have a Shia population there to speak of that's sizable in any way. It's more a matter of Iranian efforts to undermine a pro-Saudi Sunni Arab regime in Yemen. Remember, Yemen was 2 separate countries only a few decades ago. So there could be an option to divide the country again. But I think we also have to keep in mind how important Yemen is beyond the Gulf. It sits astride one of the most important maritime choke points, the Bab al-Mandab, that connects the Indian Ocean and Asian markets through the Red Sea to the Mediterranean Sea and European markets. For oil and container shipping, Bab al-Mandab is critical. It's very important that whoever is in government in Yemen is a supporter of the liberal international order that has given us the kind of peace and prosperity throughout most of the world over the last several decades.
Fascinating. Good point there. I don't think anyone's talking about that. So we'll have to keep watching. Obviously, unfortunately, see a lot more pain and strife happening before a resolution comes about. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us, John Sitiledes.
Hey YouTube, thanks for checking out our channel. We hope you enjoyed the video. We have tons of content for you just like this. For more of RT America's one-of-a-kind news and analysis, be sure to subscribe and never stop questioning more.